Welcome to this episode of the Agile for Agilists. I am one of your co-hosts, Brad Nelson,
And I am the other co-host, Drew Podwall.
and we've made it through an entire season. Have you popped the champagne yet, Drew?
I have it chilling right now. I figured I wouldn't want to preemptively pop the top of the champagne.
Fair enough, fair enough. So we've made it all the way through, and we decided to create this bonus episode. One of the things that we've talked about since the beginning is we want to be as transparent as possible to our process. And part of that is we're having a retrospective because, believe it or not, we're Agilists.
We talk the talk, we walk the walk, geeks to the end.
Exactly. Exactly. So hopefully this is interesting for you if you just want to kind of hear about our journey, or if you're thinking about starting your own podcast, or you just like retrospectives.
Or things that you can look forward to in the next podcast, which we're not going to start off with. We're going to leave that to the very end to keep you guys hanging.
Yeah. Anticipation.
Shun.
So we have an idea boards. We're not affiliated with them. We're not sponsored by them. It's the tool that we used for this.
But
We
let's
set
give them
it
a
up.
shout out. Let's give them a shout out real quick anyway, right? Because I don't know if anybody's ever used idea boards with the Z before. It's not the greatest, beautiful looking UI, but as a coach, it's been a great tool for me. If I ever needed to just spin up a retro board, it's free. It allows you to create as many columns as you want. You throw up cards with your teams, you could vote and all of that. So shout out to idea boards with the Z.com,
Yeah.
who's
Thank you.
not
Thank you.
sponsoring this at
Yeah.
all.
But thank you for a free tool. So we set up this board. Drew set up this board about a week ago, and we've kind of thrown ideas on here throughout the week. Right before this episode, we did a quick vote among us of the things that we wanted to talk about in preparation. So there's not going to be downtime of silence where you're just listening to us and imagining us voting and thinking on things.
Yeah.
Try to streamline it. And yeah, so what we decided to start with is we want to start by sharing our gratitude callouts, or as we're calling them, our gratitude bombs. And so, Drew, why don't you kick us off with some gratitude?
Well, I'm going to start off with one from you to me. No, I'm just joking. Um, I'm going to start off with the first one, right? So, Brad, for totally picking up the slack for me over the holidays and editing the remainder of our backlog. One of the things for me that's been part of this journey, Brad, as we've talked about, is that it's hard to listen to myself when we're
hmm
editing, right? I'm sure it's
hmm
hard for
hmm
the listeners to listen to me as they're listening, but it's especially hard, to listen to yourself. I'd edited the first, I think, 4 episodes and then got to the one where Brad was interviewing me. And it just kind of hit me viscerally to listen to myself, and I got stuck. And Brad noticed that I got stuck, and he said, "You know what? Why don't I edit these?" And so, Brad, thank you so much for recognizing that and, and picking up, because that was really helpful in us keeping momentum going and hitting our launch date. So, thank you.
You're very welcome, Drew. And it felt good because I know you've done most of the editing at this point. So I can give back a little bit, put in a little effort, do a little work, not just ride on your coattails.
But I'm also the reason why we need most of the editing.
Well, so on that note, and that goes to one of my gratitudes for you, Drew, is that I'm sure people have noticed that you definitely talked a bit more at the beginning. And I think I'm talking a little bit more now, but it's definitely not something that comes naturally to me. I'm an introvert. I'm a very quiet person. And so not only has Drew given me the space and the opportunity to kind of open up and warm up as our relationship buds, but he was able to fill that space for the listeners as well. And so I'm very very gracious
I
of
appreciate that. I still feel like I speak too much, but I'm working on it.
that.
All right, my turn. This is one that's not on there, but I meant to put it on there. If you listen to the first episode, you'll hear that it was 5 minutes before we actually hit record of the first episode where Brad and I kind of came to center on the fact that we were now podcasting partners, right? Like, Brad, we met back in, I think we're saying September or October, something like
Sounds
that.
right. Yeah.
And, we talked about this idea, and, you felt like I wanted this to be my podcast and that you were just going to kind of help me with it. In the back of my head, I really needed you to be my co-host. And we were both kind of being precious about that. And so literally minutes before we hit record on the first episode, we realized that we both wanted it to be co-hosts and have like co-responsibility, co-ownership of this. And so that's how that happened. And I'm so grateful because I've wanted to do this for so long and I couldn't ask for a better partner in cast, if that's a thing. I'm sure somebody said that.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Awesome. Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing with me and for calling that out in the moment. I guess that's another one of my cards here. It wasn't the one I was going to do next, but it flows well. Is one of the things that I do really appreciate about you as well. As much as you've created the space and nurturing environment as a coach, and we would expect, you've also been very candid and direct at times. Whereas I have a little bit of the Midwestern politeness where I don't always immediately speak up. And where this really kind of comes through is like when we have potential guests and there's things that we expect. And I have a card for this later. We're perfectionists. And Drew's just like, no, like, I'm not like, I'm sorry. This isn't going to work out at this time. Here's some advice. Let's just pause and come back.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And along those lines, we balance each other well. We really do balance each other well. We
Mhm.
we trade off our skill sets and our strengths and weaknesses. And so I alluded to this in my first card, but thank you for keeping me centered when I become scattered and overwhelmed. I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I have major ADHD. And sometimes I have a hard time breaking down the big rocks into the little rocks and focusing on the outcomes as opposed to the individual tasks. And I get stuck on those things at times. So it's really been wonderful having you help me through those moments. And, one of those areas is you've been so great with the design of things, right? You pick up, like I could use Photoshop and Illustrator. Or I actually prefer Illustrator to Photoshop, but I can't afford the license for both right now. It's stupid expensive.
Yeah,
But we,
yeah, it
we,
is.
we trade off and we help each other in that regard. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that does bring me to my next card, which is really starting a podcast. It at first it seems like, oh my gosh, this is just so huge. How would you ever do that? And then there's a moment where you're just like, oh, this is like all you're doing is just recording yourself and publishing it. Like, how hard could it really be? And so you have those kind of like two bipolar thoughts fighting in your head. And I definitely have much better perspective now because I've done it. And there's been a lot of research and there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot of failing. And Drew, you've done most of that. You've done the initial research, you set up the tool, you still handle
I
the
thought you were going to
recording, you
say
do the
I've done most of the
scheduling.
failing.
You've done most of the failing, Drew. Yes. Thank you for failing so much. Well, I guess you're the one learning in doing this. So yeah, I guess that's accurate. You have done the failing for me in that. And all of our tools that we use today, you identified, you did the research on, you started the motion. And we wouldn't be here today if you weren't proactive with that stuff.
Thank you. Yeah. And I got to say, a shout out to there's a future guest who we haven't recorded with yet, Sina Jazzieri. He's going to record with us in the next couple of weeks, as well as Heather Tesco, who has the London cast. So Sina's podcast is thedrunkweb.com. It's a fantastic podcast. I got some information from him and from Heather for, what tools to use and tips and tricks for getting started. And it definitely helped us to just get out of the gate by having that
Mhm.
as well. So, and that I think brings us to the last shout out, right? Is,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. We're done complimenting ourselves.
yeah. Tell me more about how much you love me, Brad. Um, so big shout out to our first guests, right? And especially our first guest for taking a chance on us. We didn't have anything really recorded yet to say, to even suggest that this was going to be like decent. Um,
Mhm.
but Maria was our first guest. I think episode number 3 is the one we talked with her. Thank you so much for being a guest and ripping off the Band-Aid with us. And then Sean and Ken and Amanda and Mark, who we've recorded with but haven't released yet, should be released next few episodes that we launch. Thank you guys. Sure.
Yes. Thank you so much. And a special call out for Maria, as our first guest. not being able to preview what we were even going for. She provided very valuable feedback after the episode as a guest
Yeah.
that
And still
has
does.
paid off. Has paid off. Every guest that we have on, we get a little bit better at it. We have in one of our to-dos is to create a list of advice for guests. And that all stems from Maria's feedback. So thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. So let's move up to the top of the board for what went well, what didn't go so well, and what we want to do differently.
Yeah, some of these we've kind of touched on, so we can probably just hit them real quick. And the very first thing that I think of when I think of like what went well is we've learned so much.
I didn't
Like,
learn anything.
oh, well, I mean, Drew had it all figured out, but I learned so much. And I mean, I even went down a deep dive on equipment, right? Like, what equipment should I have? And, I started out with just what I had in my home, which happened to be a little bit better than most people because I used to do a lot of competitive gaming. And so I had some stuff already that was better than the average. And I'm a computer builder and stuff too. But I mean, since then, I released a whole review on Reddit on my headset.
Oh, it's fantastic. We got to make sure we post that in the description for this episode.
Definitely. Yeah. I have a new mic. I have a new arm. I have a new mount. Like I have audio wise, everything is new at this point.
Well, that leads me to the first what didn't go so well card, which is, well, Brad, was upgrading his equipment, right? I still have the same microphone. I happen to have a pretty decent microphone. I just happen to have it turned 180 degrees in the wrong direction for the first 2 or 3 episodes that we recorded. And so the quality of the recordings on those, for at least my audio, wasn't so great. So what didn't go so well was Drew had good equipment. He just didn't know how to use it.
We all start somewhere.
Yeah.
We're all learning as we go. I've even installed new software, right? The Reaper filter, for those of you that are interested, eliminates a lot of the background noise, which makes editing much easier for us.
I haven't
Um,
tried that out. Do I need to try that out, you think, or am I okay?
I think you're generally okay, but hey, if you like to play around
Yeah.
with new toys.
The only thing in my office that really makes noise is I have a Synology network attached storage on my desk, and I could hear it clicking right now. I've got 4 hard drives in it, but I don't think my gain is set high enough for it to pick that up far away. And then every now and then the heater, we have forced air, comes on. I don't think it picks it up, but something I should check out anyway.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So another huge, to me, what went well is we made it. We're here. We're live.
Yeah. Not just
Uh,
live, but we're on. I mean, how many platforms are we on now?
so some of them are kind of joint, like Anchor and Spotify. But if you count all of the separate names, we're on 8.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I think that, brings us to what went well from, I think we've got it on here somewhere from a tooling perspective, but Anchor FM, which was, Sina said, go to Anchor FM. You'll never go back. Right. And so
Mhm.
Anchor FM is Spotify's podcast distribution platform. You can record your episodes. I think even in it, you could record in it, which we're not
Yep.
doing. We're using Riverside FM for that. And again, none of these tools we're getting, a rat scent from any of them. We just like them. But yeah, Anchor, you could record in it. You could distribute from it to like all the major platforms. So,
Mhm.
we're on Apple Podcasts and we're on Google, and all because we're using it on Anchor. So
Yeah. Anchor FM is free. And so that was one of the benefits as we were looking at different tools as well, like Podbean, I think was one of them I looked at. There's limited storage and there's limited capabilities until you pay. And so the fact that Anchor FM is free, although it's not maybe the most robust in some areas, the metrics are a little confusing and maybe not as much as we'd like, but there are some, which is great. And then we can upload what is it called when it's the script of everything we say?
the transcript.
The transcript. So I was right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't upload the transcript, but overall, the publishing through the RSS feed has been incredibly well streamed.
Yeah, and it
That's been a
gives
good tool.
pretty decent metrics. Like, we can't figure out that graph yet from a standpoint of, like, seeing, where the drop-off rate is in each episode. Like, I've looked at cumulative flow diagrams and
Hmm.
scatter plots, from Jira, and they make sense to me, and this one just doesn't.
Yeah. Maybe it's us. It's a,
Yeah.
person behind keyboard Chrome.
I love that acronym, EBCAC.
Yeah. What is it? Between share and keyboard. Yeah.
Error exists between share and keyboard, yeah. Alright, let's see, what else? Balancing this on top of everything else, I would say that this is in the middle of what went well and what didn't go so well. I think that there were times, and more so for you because you're working full time and I'm, scattered right now with smaller clients, but balancing like everything on top of everything else has gone well when it goes well. And I don't think it's been terrible. Do you feel like it's,
No, it's definitely not been terrible, but there's definitely been times where it felt a little crunched.
yeah.
Like there was times where we were doing multiple working sessions and recording sessions in a week.
Yeah, well, and that's true. Yeah, for sure. Especially like the holidays, that was kind of rough. I know for you,
Hmm.
but I think that what did go so well, right? And or maybe it's under you differently. I don't remember, but we decided that we're only going to record on Thursday nights now,
Yep.
and that's been kind of super easy. And now I think we're booked out until almost the end of or the first week of March. Although I'm pretty confident I've got somebody scheduled to record with us next Thursday, and I don't remember who it is. So that's on me to figure that out.
I mean, kind of on that note, like what went well is that we have people listening. We're not, competing for first slot at all, but we have people coming back, we have people listening, and we have a steady stream of people interested in joining us, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's been kinda cool, right? Is I'm talking to a lot of people and networking a lot right now, and because I'm not tied to a full-time job, I'm spending a lot of time in agile communities of practice, like the Agile Mastery one that I'm always bringing up, and
Hmm.
it's been real one, it's been amazing to meet with those people in those communities, but then it's been even better to say like, "Hey, I like what you're talking about. Would you be interested in talking on a podcast with Brad and I and having a discussion around this topic?" And nobody said no to me so far, which is kind of wild.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Actually, you'd think even someone would just be like, "Oh, I'm not comfortable."
Yeah, people seem pretty comfortable. Although I haven't reached out to like somebody like Jeff Sutherland or anything like that to say, "Hey, Jeff, want to join our podcast?" So that's
Well,
actually we should talk about that, right? Is like at what point are we going to be ready to reach out to people who we would aspirationally like to come onto the podcast and school us a bit, you know?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I know it's something we talked about, I don't know, a month or two ago, where it's one of those things where those sorts of people look at it as kind of a business transaction for them and their
Yeah.
brand, which makes sense. And so being able to say, we have X amount of listeners, our episodes get X amount of plays, those are the sorts of things that somebody from a business perspective is going to want to know. And so that's been one of our delays, I would say, so far. Would definitely love to have some big names on here. But I also kind of love that we're able to give this platform to some of the unsung heroes that we know personally.
Well, and so that ties to the card that I want to bring up, the first one that I put on here for what went well. The thing that I think, and I've said this before, the thing that stands out to me about our podcast versus the other ones, and I was explaining this to Sarah last night, like a lot of the other podcasts are really like, they're not super conversational, right? They're
Mm,
very on point to a specific polished degree. It is their definite marketing tool. This isn't really a marketing tool for us. This is an opportunity for us to have great conversations with people, open and honest conversations. And so I think the thing that sets this apart for us and other podcasts is that we're not afraid to learn as we go in the
hmm
conversations that we're having with our guests and with one another. And it makes it, at least for me, I feel like we're approachable in that regard. Uh,
hmm hmm
we're not just using this as a marketing tool to sign up like a lot of the professional services organizations out there have podcasts that they own. and they use that as a way to get clients and attract clients. Like that's not us. We're trying to have great conversations that are insightful so that we could learn ourselves
Yeah.
and better the community in that regard. So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we are experts. We are agile coaches for hire.
yes.
We try not to turn this into a sales pitch, and we're okay not being the expert always.
Yeah. Although I would like to just
And I
take a
love
quick second to say I have a timeshare in Mexico City
that.
that if anybody's out, no, I'm just joking. Wish I had a timeshare in Mexico City. Or maybe not Mexico City, but
Uh, yeah. I got the Scrum Master scent fragrance. If you,
it smells like
I don't know, I'm
yellow
floundering.
Post-it notes
It
and
does. Yeah.
Sharpies.
Yeah. Mike Cohn every year puts out for April Fools some sort of funny sight or gag, and you can get them all. You can reach all of them now, and from his mountain, what is it?
Mountain Goat.
Mountain goat. Yeah. I don't know. I'm floundering here, but you can find him on his website. But he every year releases some of the funniest stuff ever, and one of them was a fragrance for Scrum Masters, and it's hilarious.
That's great.
Thank you, Mike, for making us laugh. So yeah, so that's been really cool. And the other thing that I don't know if we've ever called out, but we don't have a script. Like all of this, we're talking off the top of our head, which sometimes results in us fumbling our words or using a word that we might not normally use, or multiple times in this episode, even I couldn't come up with the word. And our guests too, right? Our guests are agreeing to come on to this show with very little context of what we're going to talk about. And they're just experts in their field, and they're just here to talk and to share. And I think there's a realness to that. And I think there's something to respect in that.
Well, let's talk about that actually a little bit further because, behind the sines, like the way this has worked is we have a Slack channel. There's not a lot of people in it right now. It's just people who we've talked to about becoming guests or have been guests. But if we meet somebody who we want to be on the podcast, we invite them to the channel and then, we flesh out the idea a little bit, but
Mhm.
we're just kind of like saying, all right, here's a topic that we want to talk about. Let's come up with a couple of bullet points from a standpoint of what angle we want to approach this conversation from. But that's worked pretty well, right? You had Sean who came into the community that way, and we fleshed out the idea, and Amanda as well. That worked really well. And
Mhm. And I think that adds to, I call it the rawness. I don't know if that's the right term for it, realism that we offer that I appreciate. And even in our own perfectionism, right, gets in the way. We challenge ourselves to be agilists. We definitely have tendencies to hold on to it until it's perfect. So we've polished every corner, but challenging ourselves to put it out there and to learn and grow and just do it, I think is a win for us, and something I appreciate, even as recently as saying like, hey, let's not worry about an intro, right? Let's just get it out there. And I personally, I still feel really great about that. I feel like an intro adds little to no value.
well, okay, let's talk about that one too, right?
Hmm.
I got just one feedback from somebody saying you guys didn't introduce yourself by your full names, and I don't know where I sit on the fence of whether we should have an intro or not, and I don't think we'll know until other people tell us. But
Right.
I'm okay
Yeah.
with where we are right now with no intro. I think that going into it is great, but like if you guys want us to have intros, then you got to tell us.
Yeah. Let us know. We'll start a GoFundMe for Hans Zimmer, and it'll be great.
So along those lines is the editing that we do. And I'm going to
Hmm.
say that I think that one for this episode, we should just trim the head and the tail and release this one as is. I feel like it's raw anyway. It's a raw subject matter, but like, um, I just did it. I I have a tendency to say and a lot, and I did it again. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts when I'm listening to it, and I try to edit those out because it just doesn't sound. Sometimes it's okay, but we have different things that we prefer about the way that we speak, and
Hmm.
I think I have way more filler word uses than Brad does. I end every sentence with right. with a question mark at the end. Um, and I use and ah a lot. And a lot of it comes from my ADHD, right? Like I am medicated for ADHD. I was first diagnosed in third grade, but it was about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, was when I really like finally as an adult stuck to an ADHD medication that worked well for me. I realized that life slowed down and it changed the way that I actually speak and communicate, which is really wonderful because it allows me to think and speak at the same time without all the clutter in my head. Um,
Hmm.
but what I found is now that when I am speaking, when I want to slow things down, I use as the thing that holds the sentence together while I'm thinking about what I want to say next. And it doesn't come across in the way that I want. So editing is just a big pain in the butt. And everyone will tell you the number one reason why podcasts fail is because they don't like editing. So
Yeah. See what I did there?
that wasn't nice.
Uh, I definitely do it too. And that's something, as we mentioned earlier, both of us have edited. Hopefully, it sounds relatively similar from episode to episode. One of the things that we talk about, or at least I encourage Drew to embrace, is a more authentic sound. But when we edit, we do edit. We do edit awkward spaces. That's something I do a lot. I have called myself William Shatner on more than one occasion because I just have this awkward cadence at times. I'm an internal thinker, part of being an introvert, and so I think before I respond, and I don't typically think out loud. That's a trained thing that I have to force myself to do. And I do use filler words too. And so a lot of our editing is just cutting out space. We're not cutting out the message. We're not like re-recording things. It's nothing extreme. It's really cutting out the space. And then if we feel like one of us are getting hung up on a word, right, yeah. Some days you just have words that you get hung up on. We do try to limit those just to make it a little bit less intrusive for people trying to listen to the episode.
I feel like it's analogous. Like we're not quite Botox, right? Um, Maybe a little bit of Clearasil and
Yeah, I'm gonna start running a filter on my voice so I sound like Morgan Freeman.
in a time where agilists were able to walk into a company and just start coaching.
That's pretty great. I'm expecting that from now on.
All right, what else do we have here? Let's see.
So on the editing note, the word that I used was Herculean. Right, it's a Herculean effort to edit,
Wait,
and this is
I
something
thought
I
I
knew
wrote
going
that.
into
You
it.
wrote that?
I wrote
Oh,
that.
I
Yeah,
thought I wrote that one.
yeah. Wavelengths. Uh, or maybe we both wrote one. I don't know. And like we've never edited audio before this, to my knowledge, and like Drew has plays instruments, and I've done some video editing, so we weren't 100% clueless, but it's not something we really had experience in. And for a standard episode, I mean, it's at least 4 hours. Would you say?
Yeah, it is 4 hours at least, definitely. And that last made it 4 hours and 5 minutes. So,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about that for a second, right? So there's a tool out there called Descript, and there's other tools out there as well. Um, and it uses AI to detect filler words. So it looks for ums and ahs and so and well, other things. And like I can hit a button and it could magically erase all of them, but it doesn't do it really well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So what I do is I generate the list of the filler words and just skip to each one and listen and see what I can do to nudge it around a bit. Mm, I try not to remove all of them. I try to leave some of them in there. But Brad, to what you were talking about before, right? Like you do have a cadence where there's space in between your words, right?
Hmm.
There was a right. That was an example of me saying right. Um, I do too. It's just I fill mine with an or a right, you know? So I
Hmm.
feel like we're on the same sort of wavelength actually for how we think while we speak. It's just that I fill it audibly and you don't.
Yeah. I do a lot. of public speaking. And so that's something that I would say I've worked on.
Yeah.
And I'm still not perfect or great by any means, but it is something I've consciously worked on.
Yeah.
I have some amazing colleagues at my company that helped me get started with presenting, gave me advice on titles and abstracts and feedback on how I presented. I remember the one that sticks out the most is I do use write a lot when I'm not getting feedback. When I'm presenting in person and I'm just getting that deer in the headlight kind of stares from the audience, I start saying right because I'm looking for validation. I'm looking to see if the people are following me, if they're thinking I'm full of it. Like I don't know what's going on at that point. It's kind of like a freak out moment when you're in front of them. And I subconsciously start reaching for that validation. I start saying right.
Well, it's kinda like when you start an email by saying, "I wanted to touch base so that I could," right?
Hmm.
And, back in the day when you wrote emails like that and somebody pointed it out to you and you said, "All right, I'm gonna try just starting out my email by saying, 'Here's what I need,' or
Hmm.
'Here's the information.'"
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at some of the do differently things. So one of the things that I think that we should do differently is, like, we bring up things from time to time. We reference things, we reference other podcasts, we reference tools, and
Hmm.
we haven't done a great job of capturing those so that this way, when we release it, we could add in the description a list of some of the things that we've referenced. And so I've gone back with a couple of the episodes where I
Mm.
remembered that. But, like, for instance, in this episode, in the description, we should have ideas boards on idea boards, 1Z in the description as a reference, right? We should have Descript and Riverside, and even though they're not paying us and nobody's paying us, but it should
Mm.
be there. So I think that's something I want to figure out a way, some sort of system to when we're recording to, and, like, actually, what we could do is in Riverside, there's this button you can, I don't know if it shows up on your side, the mark clip button, but
Yeah. Yep.
so we could click mark clip, and now we don't have to capture that we've said something important that we want to grab for later, but at least we've got it referenced. So
Yeah. That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that at all. So that's a completely fresh idea for me. I like it.
fresh ideas with a Z.
Yes. Everything's with a Z now. So I guess I'll throw one out there for me then. As you mentioned, the graphics, the design, I've definitely contributed to a lot of it as far as, I designed our logo based off of, something that Drew started. And then he based the website off of that logo and the colors I used. And so I think we've done a great job of collaborating. Like the fact that we landed on this name, which Drew already owns. And like, I feel like creatively, we really resonate well, which I absolutely love. And I feel like a lot of partnerships really struggle with. Like, I feel very blessed there.
Yeah, I do as well, right? Like, as I said, I've wanted to have this podcast for a while. I realized at the beginning of COVID, I was talking to lots of great people. I should just be recording these conversations as podcasts. But I just didn't have maybe some of it was confidence, or some of it was
Hmm.
wanting somebody who I could trust, like I do you, to shoulder the weight and bounce ideas off of and carry this thing forward. But I want to just go back for a second because you said that you created the logo based off of a logo that I gave you. And I want to just
Hmm.
call out for a second that the logo that I gave you was literally like an MS Paint, um, right? It was a bright red. I don't know what the hex code for bright red is, but it was whatever the default red is. It's that red. And it was an agile loop with a lime green hamster wheel in the center of it with a hamster. And it said in bright green text on the top and the bottom, something along the lines of, "Stop being an agile hamster." So that's
Well,
not I'm glad you feel like that was like a spark that helped you to, like, create an ember that then turned into the wonderful flame that is your design, but I don't know how you can make a hop, skip, and a jump like that.
well, well, if you work in design, a lot of times you do start out with really rough drawings. Like you'll hand draw something. I'm not like I do not consider myself a drawer by any means. I've gotten in recent years a lot better at painting. Um, significantly better. I've surprised myself even. But the things that I like draw by hand on paper when I'm ideating, I hope no one sees. They're terrible.
Yeah,
So
I'm good with collage, and I think I'm actually really good when it comes to that kind of stuff. But and I enjoy it. I really enjoy. I get lost for hours when I'm like making collages and whatever digitally. I love doing that kind of stuff. I think that I'm definitely going to add that original logo somewhere on the website so that everybody can see it at some point. I had this idea, like I think it was a year ago, maybe more, where I wanted to start creating content, and so this like agile hamster kind of thing, like get off the wheel.
yeah, I still want to do something more at the hamster. Like at some point, I'll do a loop and do like a shadow of the hamster in the wheel or something like coming off the loop or something cool. I still love the hamster part,
Yeah,
uh, but I also love neon. So
yeah,
on the do differently, I guess, or more work we have. One of the things is that I really sloppily made that logo, and it's worked for an MVP. But Drew has seen the mess that I don't normally share. My Photoshop file is like a bomb went off. It's a disaster, and I didn't technically make it big enough for what we need. So I'm gonna have to actually go back and completely remake it.
well, I think what we're going to do instead of that, Brad, is we'll set up a Patreon and people can fund uh, somebody on Fiverr to remake our logo for us, because getting back to the where was the card, balancing this on top of everything else, like that's not something that, unless you want to do it, but
Yeah, I mean, when the time's right, this whole podcast kind of scratches that creative itch, and psychology is a part of what we
totally,
do, and having creative outlets is crucial to your mental health, regardless of what it is.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, for me, and now we're going down a rabbit hole a little bit, so I'll keep it quick. Before I joined the Navy in 1996, I was supposed to go to art school for photography, and I chickened out. I don't know if I told you this or not.
You haven't told me, but I've seen your Instagram. You are a fantastic
Thank
photographer.
you. Thank you. But when I joined the Navy, everything was gray, right? Like, I love that quote from, Apocalypse Now when the the cook from Louisiana is in the kitchen, and he's like, "They had all these amazing cuts of meat, and we just boil them."
Mhm.
There's, like, no creativity in the Navy whatsoever, right? But then I became this troubleshooter, and I realized, like, troubleshooting is very creative.
Mhm.
So yeah, like find your creative outlet, right? Like coaching an agile team is creative. There's a lot of creativity in that. Like, how are you going to keep people on the path? Keep them learning, keep them growing. Um, but if you need something creative, collaging is great. Podcasting is great. So,
Mhm. Definitely.
so what else do we have here? Do we want to look at what listeners should look forward to now?
Yeah, yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. That's probably a good time to transition. So, as I mentioned, season 2, as Drew mentioned, we have people scheduled out for weeks, and we're gonna figure out how to work around some of my presentation schedule, but we're not stopping. We've agreed we're gonna roll right into season 2, and we've now established this Thursday recording. We're gonna have a cadence. We're gonna be releasing every Tuesday on Anchor FM,
Yep.
and then it'll publish out. So every Tuesday, you can expect a new episode, at least for 12 episodes after the next, 2 or 3 that we're releasing now for season 1.
Yeah, we're just going to keep it rolling. So we've got on deck, right? Just to give you a sneak preview who we're going to be speaking with. We're going to be speaking with a guy named Diego von Sosten, who I met about 2 years ago. He had a product called Teamworky. That was a really cool AI based retro board that did natural language processing for tonality of what people added to the retro and forms. And sadly, like, it was a great tool, but they just couldn't get funding for it. And I knew I wanted Diego to talk about that, about fast cycles of failure, but I was kind of afraid to say, "Hey, Diego, why don't you join the podcast and talk about your product that failed from the standpoint of fast cycles of failure?" And so I kind of didn't say that to him, and he brought it up on his own. So I'm really looking forward to that one. And then Sina Jazzieri, he's an amazing developer who was one of the lead developers on one of my first Scrum teams that really got Agile and Scrum, and we're working in an organization where it was working well. And a lot of people talk about, well, I'm a Scrum Master, but I've never been a developer before. So we're going to talk with him about, well, all right, like what does he look for in a Scrum Master? What are the traits and attributes that he, as a superstar engineer, looks for in a Scrum Master so that you can seamlessly be part of that team and accepted? And then Joe Parker, right? Joe Parker is like, I know you guys are all talking to recruiters. How many times have you spoken to a recruiter that actually understood Agile and Scrum and actually understood that Agile is a set of principles and values and not a methodology or a framework, right? And I feel like I'm missing somebody who we've just,
Yeah, I can't remember either. We one of our things that we're working on is a calendar system for tracking all of this a little bit better.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, even just, the names you listed so far, super exciting stuff coming up. Super excited to have these guests. And one of our do differently type things is we're trying to have more and more guests on. It was a little difficult starting out due to SEO reasons. We had to release 8 up front. I don't know if that's helped our SEO or not, but it did make it a little bit harder to have guests on, and it made it a little bit harder to advocate for each episode. But Drew and I also know that you're going to get sick of just hearing what we have to say constantly and listening to our voices, as well as we're going to run out of stuff. So we're definitely going to prioritize guests as much as we can to bring in different unique perspectives and fun topics.
And that said, like if you have a topic that you want to school us on, or if you have a correction that you want to come onto the episode and school us on a bit, or if you want to flesh out something further that we've touched on, or something totally unique that you want to talk about somewhere, we're your platform, as long as you don't turn it
Yeah.
into like a Proud Boy moment, but
Word. And if you're not comfortable with a full episode, we now have this voicemail feedback plugin on our website that Drew set up. We definitely love to hear people tell us how much they love us. But if you want to just give us a quick clip of, hey, you guys are idiots and you said this thing wrong, or
we're going to play
you're
it.
pronouncing shuhari wrong or whatever.
We're
Yeah.
going to play
Well,
it. And we're not going to edit it, right? We're going to play it exactly as you say it. So record it 2 or 3 times if you want, and tell us which one is the best one, and we'll go with that one. But we promise we'll play anything you put there, as long as it's not like never going to give you up, right? We will not play.
we won't
We
rickroll
will
our
Rickroll. I
listeners,
was trying to remember that.
and we're not going to share anything that might get us, canceled.
Yeah, that's true too. And then we're thinking, we haven't really talked about logistically what this would be like, but we want to do a live stream, right? The cool thing about Riverside is like I could literally right now click a button, just it would post a link to this on LinkedIn, and
Hmm.
anybody who clicks that link on LinkedIn could join this as a live stream, and it allows us to have an audience where we could even select people from the audience to join us as guests. Kind of like I don't know if you ever used have you ever used Clubhouse?
I know the name. I haven't used it.
Clubhouse is a lot of fun. It was early in the pandemic. They created this application where you could start a Clubhouse streaming room and have a conversation, and people could join it as part of the audience, and they could raise their hands, and you could call people up and join the discussion. And I haven't used it in a while, but it was a really cool platform, and I think it probably still is. But so,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be a lot of fun for sure.
if we want to do a live stream, I think that would be great.
There's a lot of things I think that we have ideas percolating or we've touched on briefly. And it all comes down to you, the listeners. If you listen, if you like what we have to say, um, The more listeners we have, the easier it's going to be to pull some of these things off.
Do you want to tell them about the surprise now, or do you want me to tell them about the surprise?
The surprise.
Surprise. That was the surprise. There is no surprise. Sorry. That's the other thing I got to figure out. Am I just too much of a joker on this? Is it like, I don't know. It's just my natural state of being. I, I remember when I first was like a project manager, I would just bring up jokes in meetings, and learned this filter of pause. Is this going to add value to this meeting, or is it not going to add value to this meeting? And that's worked well. And I think I might need to bring that filter into the podcast.
My opinion is there's definitely value in showing our uniqueness and our personalities as well. Hopefully our listeners feel the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, and things that I guess we didn't talk about really because they're far out there, but monetizing the podcast. That's something that we've briefly discussed in our ability to be agile or our approach towards being agile. We haven't talked all of these ideas through and out. And so far, we've definitely agreed on most things, which has been pretty great. I would say some people might struggle without setting some of those terms early on. But monetization, that's something that would definitely help with editing to pay for our own editor, any of the additional things that are outside of our skill sets. It's just been Drew and I, like we have flexed to create everything that exists today. And, who knows, maybe someday we'll have merch. Maybe we can do a live event live. All of this just kind of depends on how this goes.
We definitely should make Agile hamster keychains. Well, to me, the monetization part of it is like right now, it's having great conversations with great people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's getting feedback, which we haven't really gotten a whole lot of, but getting some of it. If we can make a buck off this, then that would be great. But I'm still really happy to have a platform that is like our sandbox for,
Mm-hmm.
learning. You already do a lot of speaking engagements. Like monetization for me would be getting somebody who listened to the podcast to say like, hey, why don't you come into the company and talk about this? But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much money people make off podcasts.
Yeah. And I definitely think like we're not trying to get rich off this. There are costs. It's not free. And not even talking about our time. Like we pay for equipment, or Drew so far pays for equipment or software licenses. So yeah, we're not going to bombard you ever with a bunch of ads or annoying breaks or anything like that.
No. Well, I don't know, maybe, but I think we'll never ask you directly for money.
be, be like in Ricky Bobby where we have the Fig Newton across the windshield. It's inconvenient, but I sure do love Fig Newtons.
Well, I think that was a good wrap up for the season. I think that we had a great time since we've started this and been super enjoyable. And I'm glad that we decided to put together a board to capture these thoughts. It was, we could have just had this as a free form discussion, but I think having the cards was helpful. And yeah, so we're just super glad that people are enjoying this and that we have this opportunity. So
Definitely. Thank you, Drew, for inviting me into this journey and being an amazing partner and collaborator.
thank you, Brad, for reaching out to me after that interview or pseudo interview and
Mm,
allowing me to share on your journey as well, because it came from both sides, right? I think maybe it was just that I had the idea about the podcast, but we were both thinking about it from a standpoint of like creating content.
Definitely. Yeah. And once again, thank you to all of our guests. We really, really appreciate you coming on the show with us, giving us a chance, sharing your perspectives. It's just been fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you. So that's it.
And thank you to our listeners.
Thank you. Oh, thank you to the listeners. Yeah. Wow. Reach out across and slap me. I didn't see that cue. Thank you to our listeners. I'm going to edit that middle part out. No, I'm not.
And yeah, that's a wrap.
That is a wrap.